just wanted to have a chat to you, really, about the Weber Cup and bowling, especially now we're only a couple of weeks out, and obviously there's been loads of changes with the Weber Cup this year, which are quite exciting. But first of all, we could just maybe have a chat about your bowling. Have you been up to much over the last couple of weeks in terms of your own bowling and tournaments?
Well, I mean, for my bowling, I'll just say over the last couple of weeks, uh, our last PBA stop on the PBA 50 tour was the USBC Senior Masters, and I was fortunately I set a new 15 game record qualifying for the tournament,
Amazing.
um, shooting about 715 over. I don't know what the exact number I ended up with, but that being said, unfortunately, I did not win the tournament. I finished in a bracket of 13 through 16, but it was still a good week, a good solid week, and you try to build upon it and move on. Now,
Absolutely, yeah.
uh, currently, we are bowling our first tournament of the summer tour segment of the PBA 50 tour, and at the present moment, it looks like I will either be qualifying leader or second after we get done with 15 games for the PBA 50 World Championship.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Okay, well, I'll be keeping an eye on following that now, and hopefully finish on top there. Um, so the Weather Cup kicks off in 2.5 weeks' time now. It seems to have crept up very quickly, and you're taking over as captain for Team USA this year. Last year was your first Weather Cup. How did you find the experience? How does it compare to tournaments in the States? Have you ever done anything similar?
The Weber Cup is literally its own beast. And when I say its own beast, it is such a unique atmosphere, totally unlike anything that any PBA tournament member has ever bowled before. Okay. We bowl tournaments not only in the United States, but throughout the world. And, I don't want to just make it sound like the PBA members, but I mean competitive bowling in general. You bowl in a facility that has a number of lanes, and everything culminates down to typically, one final match. Well, this here at the Weber Cup, uh, last year being my rookie year behind it, the uniqueness is it's one lane that everyone bowls on the one lane, and it is a number of subsequential one game matches, however you break it down, singles, doubles, or team. And I know the format is just a little bit different this year, but it's really awesome. Unlike anything else that I've bowled in.
And that's interesting that you said, because I was going to ask you about how you found bowling, on that one lane, in that one lane format. I think when I was doing a bit of research, the only other tournament I could find where it's ever been bowled on a one lane format seems to have been outdoors in Egypt in the final of the World Cup, going back I think to the 90s or early 2000s. So I imagine the one lane setup, the crowd either side, is quite a unique experience. Does it affect play at all, with the lane breakdown, or is it a situation where it's the same for all the bowlers, so it doesn't really matter?
Well, the great thing is, however the lanes break down, they're going to break down. None of us can help that. But the challenges or the changes that go on literally only affect the players on the floor. You're not moving into someone else's traffic, meaning how the ball goes down the lane and eventually changes it. And you're not moving into, I'll say, uncharted territory because you don't know what happened there a few hours ago. Or let me say, in some facilities we go to, there could have been a birthday party there
Yeah.
or something else had happened. This lane is constructed specifically for the 8 challengers representing 2 different teams in this Weber Cup championship, and that makes it totally awesome.
I imagine it's probably one of the best maintained lanes in the world as it only gets brought out for the Weather Cup each year.
I'll tell you what, I think it certainly is. If you look at from a layman's perspective, he's only got one lane to worry about and one approach. One machine and one ball return. And as long as everything is up and running and leveled perfectly, which I believe in my heart that they're going to do everything they can to make sure that it is that way, then when you add the atmosphere around it with the bleachers and the settee, with the stands and people on both sides of that lane, literally it brings the attention, all eyes on you.
Brilliant. I know the crowds love it as well because I think they feel that they're really part of the experience as well.
They certainly are. The crowds, not knowing what to expect last year when I went there, the crowds that were there certainly appreciate good bowling. And when I say good bowling, regardless of where you were from or who you represent, the crowd would definitely get behind you if you got up there and either you could make the shot and or make the game exciting so that it would keep them on their feet. And that's what they wanted to see.
So you don't feel that there was any real crowd bias then towards Europe?
No, no, they're supposed to be root or cheer a little bit more for their countrymen. I respect that, but I know from being there, and I know that we got crushed pretty handily last year. But the few times that we actually won matches, and I was fortunate to win two of my matches, the crowd still stood behind you, and they were clapping and cheering for you. And that tells me that they want to see good bowling, regardless of who's on the lane.
I would agree with that. I know when I'm watching the best bowl, I don't care who it is. I want to watch good bowling. I don't care who it is doing it. I want to watch it and I love it and it's fantastic to see. And you want to be behind someone when they're playing and doing well. You want to support them. That's what it should be about.
Exactly, exactly. Any sport you go to watch, I mean, if you're watching a sport with two competitors, whether it's individuals or teams, there's always going to be someone that you're going to root for a little bit more. But at the same time, out of respect, you have to appreciate the other team or the other individual for what he or she may accomplish that you look at and go, wow, look what they're doing.
And I guess as well, it on that note, that can go quite a long way towards promoting good team spirit, which in your own game, when you're playing with your friends, your teammates, etc., is obviously a really good thing as well. Because team spirit, working together, is so important.
Well, you have to work together. I mean, it may be one individual on the lane, but there are four total teammates, three other, in this case, it's three other guys that are there that not only are cheering for you because they want to see you win, but they're also discussing some sort of strategy or a plan of attack on what's going to allow you guys to triumph and win that particular match and move on to the next one, feeling like you have a little bit of an edge.
Brilliant. So, out of interest, the Weber Cup, I think the first year it was held in Poland, but then after that it's always been held in England. Would you like to see it ever taken over to your side of the Atlantic Ocean?
For as much as I'd like to see it move and come over here to this side of the Atlantic Ocean, uh, I think the uniqueness and the Weber Cup, the name to it, and what has taken place within that tournament, I honestly, my heart tells me it's in the best place that it can be, somewhere there within the confines of Europe. Okay, there are enough bowling events that go on here within the United States, and the uniqueness of this event, it's amazing to me over the year, and not just this year, but let me say a few months prior to me coming there last year for my first year. It is amazing how many people actually know about the Weber Cup. Significant bowlers and, I'll say high end bowlers, bowlers that no longer bowl in a big tournament competition or they've lost that competitive edge of bowling, but they've been around bowling for 10 or 15 years, as well as a lot of the older teenagers / younger 20 crowd, high school / college bowlers. With the surfing of the internet anymore, well, if you're a bowler at heart, you know about the Weber Cup.
It's a very special, very exciting event, and I think it's a fantastic exhibition in bowling as well. So, as you mentioned earlier, the USA did get trounced last year. I know it's 3 years in a row now that Europe have been victorious. So how do you plan to break Europe's winning streak this year?
Well, I think the best way that we're going to break Europe's winning streak this year is we're going to start by taking it one match at a time. Although we don't have experience on our team, I think we got a lot of, or we've got two new young fiery guys that are going to bring a ton of excitement to the playing field. The first guy is Marshall Kent. This young man, he's already accomplished himself on the PBA Tour. He's won once or twice, and don't quote me on the twice, but I know for a fact he's won one tour title. But that being said, he has a number of amateur accolades to his credit, and coming out on the PBA Tour last year or 2 years ago, he certainly has already made a name for himself, and players know, that when he's on the lanes, you know what? You better bring your A game to the table, because he is going to bring it. He can go straight up the lane, and he can go around the lane with the best of them.
So he's a very versatile player.
Yes, he is. Extremely so. Then you have someone like Kyle Troup. Kyle Troup, I'll say somewhat better known under his father's name, the son of Guppy Troup. Guppy was a very colorful, flashy player on the PBA Tour. He kind of had a little bit of the wild hair going, which his son certainly has the wild hair. Oh, my God. Most ladies would love to put that head of hair on top of their head. But, that being the case, he's definitely a two-hander that is not afraid to gunsling it down the lane. Somewhat like Oscar Palermo, who bowled for the European team last year. Kyle he's going to bring it to the lane and throw pins around in such a way, and his maneuvers at the foul line, he's going to keep the crowd energized. Trust me when I say that.
And are we going to see the rest of Team USA in matching trousers to Carl, perhaps?
Well, I don't know if we will all have our matching trousers, like Kyle does, but he's got a ton of flamboyancy, and when he brings that out on the lane, his colors literally will shine, along with his ability to knock down pins.
I think he's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Actually, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. And then of course you've got Wes Malott, who is quite experienced now in the Weber Cup. I think he's played a few times now, hasn't he?
Yeah, Wes has been there 2 or 3 times in the past. Certainly, everybody on tour, he's known as Big Wes Malott. But more importantly, he's not afraid to stand on a lane against anybody. So if it really comes down to it, as things progress and go forward, I have zero problem, watching our players or watching our team. If the ball's in Wes's hand, I will be happy to sit on the sideline and watch Wes take charge, because he's that player that can definitely stand tall and take charge at any time against any one individual.
So you've got a very mixed team as well, haven't you? Obviously, you're left-handed, Wes Malott. He's a cranker, isn't he? Marshall's very versatile, and then you've got Carl, a two-hander. So do you think that will stack up, that versatility in the team? Do you think that will stack up quite well against Europe, that variety? And
yeah, I really do. I think that we've got the lane covered from all aspects. There's going to be a lot of thought that's going to go into it. We've got 4 guys that are very energetic. Let me say, me being the elderly statesman on this team, but you've got four guys that are energetic. You've got four players that appear to be bowling pretty good at the present moment, and we are not, as a team, we are not uh, set back to play any part of the lane. We're willing to play anywhere at any time, depending what the lane gives. And I'll say wholeheartedly, any one of the four of us with ball in hand, when a shot is needed, I think all of us are able and capable of stepping up to the plate.
That should be fantastic to watch. I'm looking forward to it. Um, just go back to Carl. You talking about how he can really attack the lane, the pins go flying. I know there's been quite a lot of controversial discussion over the last few months about the two-handed style of play. I know
Mm-hmm.
Brian Voss wrote that article, which provoked quite a lot of interesting debate, well thought out debate on both sides actually. Um, just out of interest, do you have a personal opinion on two-handed bowling?
Well, of my own opinion, I've watched enough things change throughout the years on the PBA Tour, and I'm mainly going to focus on the PBA Tour when I answer this question.
Of course.
Okay, but every decade it seems like something changes. The biggest thing that changes is bowling ball. You went from a hard rubber bowling ball back in, let me say, the 50s and 60s to a soft rubber bowling ball in the 70s with softer plastic as well. In the 80s rolled around, it was urethane. In the 90s, it was reactive. In 2000, it was proactive. So, every decade, it seems like there's a change. But now to the style of player. Players basically grew up in the 50s and 60s going down and in. When I say down and in, your target was always in front of you, and your ball had very little hook on the back end. You were trying to throw your ball or roll it so that it went down the lane and entered the 1-2 or 1-3 pocket, respectively. And then in the 70s, some guy named Mark Roth came along, and he started to create hook and power and made a bowling ball do things on a lane that when it attacked the pins danced around, and it really, and when I say really, it truly opened people's eyes to the sport of bowling. So, in my own eyes, I believe that he has single handedly revolutionized the sport of bowling since the late 1970s. Anybody in the world today that hooks a ball basically does it because of this one man and what he was capable of doing on TV. And not just once or twice, he did it obviously for an endless amount of shows. And being a four-time PBA Player of the Year, he certainly had his share of TV shows and victories along the way. That being said, look what's happening in today's world. Two-handed phenoms that are out. Jason Belmonte, Oscar Palermo, they're the main two. And there's a couple of other young guns that are coming up that also do it. We can look at Kyle Troop here. I know that Marshall Kent is not afraid to throw it two-handed if he really needs to. But you're not going to watch the older traditional players, such as myself. I'm going to put Martin Larson in that group. I think he's a little bit older. You're not going to watch us traditional players trying that anytime soon on a repeatable basis, only because our games are formulated to what they are over the last 20 or 30 years. So therefore, I think that the two-handed bowling, it's a new wave. It's a new way to attack the lanes. And of my own personal opinion, it's here to stay. And as one bowling representative, we need to open our arms and open our eyes and ears and welcome it, because it's a new part of our sport that we need to embrace.
And do you think, I mean, I know only time will tell, but do you think potentially it could become the dominant style as more younger people take up the sport and perhaps more coaches learn how to teach it? Or do you think, we'll see a healthy mix between one handed and two hand, or one hand will remain dominant?
Well, the one thing that we don't know is we don't know how long a two-handed bowler will last.
Yeah.
The the what do you do to your back and your spine, what you do to your body going up to the foul line. There's a lot more contortions and twisting that gives you the unorthodox way of actually enabling going up to the foul line. But that being said, I am by no means a doctor, and I'm not going to sit here and analyze someone or tell you how long he or she may last. But I will tell you this, that I made this statement 3 or 4 years ago, and I still hold by it today, that I believe 20% of our junior bowlers around the country, for that matter, around the world, are going to learn the two-handed style and technique.
So
Some of them are going to become good players, but just like the one-handed styles, there's only going to be a distinct few that are going to become exceptionally great. We already talked about Belmonte. We've already talked about Oscar Palermo. Those are two of the players that have become exceptionally great. The next two-handed great player could either be in my backyard or your backyard. And over the next couple of years, we will just have to wait and see who's the next one that steps up to the plate.
okay, thank you. That's really insightful. Actually, it's definitely interesting to see how it develops. It was interesting to hear you talk about bowling ball technology changing as well, because I know that's something else that's been um, a big topic for discussion. I know a lot of people believe it's actually harming the sport, whereas other people believe that we should embrace it, and that learning about the technology and how they react to different lane conditions and match up, etc., is just as important.
You
What are your
know,
thoughts on that?
well, Helen, I mean, I try to give correlations to things when I explain things accordingly.
Yeah.
Please, please tell me this because I know your country a little bit, but I don't know it exactly. Is one of the big sports in your country cricket?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
I'm not that interested in it, but my husband is completely addicted to it.
and that's fine. You don't have to know anything about cricket, but I'm sure that you've had one or two small conversations with your husband. And let me go back to cricket being played back in 1950. I doubt seriously that the fields were as beautiful then as they are now. I doubt seriously that the sticks that were used to hit the ball were as nice and as solid then as they are today. I doubt seriously that the ball is in as good a shape then as it is today. You know, when I look at all of these sports, and when I say cricket, let's look at racing, okay? You can be a Formula One beautiful, meaning you like to watch Formula One and Michael Schumacher and all the other racers. And in America, we have NASCAR. But a long, long time ago, no one heard of someone doing 100 kilometers or 150 kilometers per hour around a racetrack. And now, if you go to any types of these races, Formula One or NASCAR here in America, it's not out of the question that these same players are racing at levels 200, 250, sometimes 300 kilometers an hour without question. So all of the sports are literally getting better, stronger, and faster. And we have to figure that out as the greatest players in our sport. We have to figure out how to adapt to it, how to utilize it, and make it enhance us as individuals.
Okay. Yeah, it's just something I wanted to ask because it's a discussion that you quite often see thrown about on social media, and a lot of players quite often saying how they long to go back to glory days where people used rubber and the lanesmen used a mop, and it always gets quite heated. So it was just something I wanted to ask about, really.
Well, I would look at anybody and say this: why do you use that cell phone in your pocket? Are you going to go back to a rotary phone? I mean, technology has its ways. Look at we're talking on Skype. We're talking on a computer.
And who would have thought
Okay.
that could have happened 30 years ago?
Well, exactly. And technology opens up those windows, and someone is going to figure out how to make technology bigger and stronger, not only in our sport, but anything and everything that we do. Your automobile runs much better today than it did back in 1960. It's capable of going faster. Swimmers have gotten faster. Okay, football players, or out in your sport, it's not football. They kind of call it soccer, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, they've gotten stronger, and teams have figured out how to work better together. Well, the two teams that are going to play there at the Weber Cup, trust me, I know the European team is going to work as diligently as possible to overcome and triumph us. But I can also tell you that we are going to try to make sure that we work one notch stronger so that we can triumph them.
There's nothing like team play. Um, so as a captain this year, how are you going to try and sort of rally? How you can sort of manage your team, rally your team? Do you kind of work together and decide how you're going to approach things? Do you do you sort of lead
We
by example? What's your kind of approach?
Well, I in the very beginning, I'm going to say Wes. The team is going to look at Wes and myself because the other two guys have not been there before. But it will not take long for them to both adapt. Okay, and when I say that, they've bowled on a wide variety of conditions, a wide variety of different atmospheres. This one lane technique definitely holds its own atmospheric condition, but the players that we are bringing over there certainly are capable of overcoming those challenges. And when I say those challenges, once they get comfortable after a few shots in that setting, they're going to do what they know how to do best: roll a bowling ball down the lane and knock over 10 pins.
And what do you think is the key to a successful team?
A
Um,
success.
obviously, there's a few team events over here. There's a brilliant event that went on last weekend. Actually, a couple of guys I know set up a fantastic team bowling event to try and bring back the love for team bowling and revive it a little bit, and it's been really well received. It's proven that the thirst for team bowling is still there, which is great. But yeah, what do you think is the key to to a successful team?
I think that the successful team is going to really gel and work together. They're going to understand their strengths and they're going to use their strengths where necessary. Okay? Every team is going to have something that they feel like is not exactly their strong point. But you don't worry about negatives. Anything that you do in life, including you and me as we're talking, if you spill a glass of water, you don't let it ruin your day. You get a towel, you clean it up, and you move along. That being said, we're going to have the unfortunate shot or the unfortunate break. Both teams will have that. The key is how you deal with it, work together, and overcome it.
Brilliant, thank you. So, it's, I guess, staying positive as well and not dwelling or letting your teammates dwell on the negatives either. Because I guess it's really important if someone's having a bad day, if somebody is feeling a bit down, it's up to the rest of the team to try and build them back up again.
Exactly. You got to pick them up.
So I guess
And
that's the most important part of being a team, I guess.
it, for sure. I mean, not all the cricket players get up there and hit the home run or the perfect shot. Okay? Not all racers do everything perfect going around the track. Not all of your soccer players can go out there and do exactly what they need to do, being playing soccer or playing footy. But at the end of the day, they work together, they work within one another to figure out how they, as a team, can become the demanding force to stand tall.
And on that note as well, at the Weber Cup, I know there's the different matches. You've got the singles, the doubles, and the Baker team. Um, which is your favourite event? Which is your favourite event? We've just been talking about team. Is it fair to say it's the Baker?
I think the Baker is really awesome when it all comes down to it. And the reason that I say that is because all of us are on the floor at the same time. We are all living the moment. We're sharing in that one individual game. And as much as we want to win, we know that the other team wants to win too. But when you get it all to click together and the team that can gel and figure it out, you're all right there and you stand to just live and cherish the moment for as long as you possibly can.
I guess sharing it together is quite special.
It is because in our sport, most of us players that you're going to see out there, vast majority of tournaments that we bowl are on an individual basis. Very few times do we bowl events that it is a team atmosphere exactly like what you're going to see at the Weber Cup. And that's what makes it unique. It makes it very cool. The fact that it's in what I feel a one-lane constructed venue with an audience around you that is enthusiastic as the people that you have there in England that really appreciate the professionals on the lane. It's electrifying and everyone gets into it.
On the lanes, I know Europe and USA have traditionally had their rivalry on the lanes, a little bit of banter between the two teams. Off the lanes, I imagine you're quite friendly, have a bit of
Yes, we are.
fun.
We really are. I mean, we know and understand that on the lanes we want to win. We want to win just as bad as they want to win. But off the lanes, when it's all said and done, any of those guys, or all eight of us, can probably share a meal or go out together and share and talk about some of the good times that we had in the past or something good that may be coming up in the future.
And again, that's what it should be about, isn't it? Rivals on the lanes, but friendly, friendly when you get off, and be able to share those experiences.
Oh my God, yeah. And that's what all of life should be like that. Have your battles out there on the playing field because you're trying to win and overcome someone else. But the battles should be limited to the playing field only.
Um, you always strike me as being quite a calm bowler who's always in control. Um, I know some bowlers, myself included, can get quite ratty sometimes when things go wrong. Um, do you ever feel frustrated, or have you just over time learnt to stay very calm? And what would be your advice to people who maybe struggle to contain their emotions and frustrations?
You know what? You have to control your inner self. And the last thing that you need to do, or let me back up, you have to control your inner self. And when I say that, I'll be the first to admit that I have good shots and I have bad shots. I do get good breaks and I do get the unfortunate breaks. But the most important thing that you always have to remember is never let your opponent know how you feel if things are not going quite the way you want them to. Because when your opponent feels that, if your opponent sees that, it's very easy for them to do something to try to get under your skin or unrattle your nerves so that they take you away from the moment that you're trying to figure out.
And then that's something that's very difficult to come back from and compose yourself from, I suppose.
Well, exactly, because once you let someone get under your skin and unravel your own nerves, then you lose control and you lose focus of the situation.
I think that's something that we all need to remember, really, and not just in bowling, in everything,
Every,
in everything.
everyday life. You have children,
I do, yeah.
okay? Well, I'm going to tell you, as a father of 5 children, and however many children that you have, I am sure that your children do something every day that you look at and go, now, dear, why did you do that?
Oh, yes.
Okay? And sometimes they do it again and again. And as a parent, we try to teach them the difference between right and wrong. But sometimes they'll do something that is really silly that we laugh at, or really out of the ordinary that now it immediately gets under our skin. But to get mad and let it ruin your day, you've just you've belittled yourself at that point. Okay? You have to take that that inner ground, if you want to say, and turn that negative into a positive. And when you learn by the mistake or learn by the actions of someone else, you can transform that to make you a better person, and or you turn the negative into a positive, so that I always say this, you have to be a big loser to become a much better winner.
Yeah, really, really wise words there. Okay, I won't keep you too much longer, as I know we've been talking quite a while now, and I really appreciate it. So, if I guess I'll move on to a slightly different topic. Um, Tenpin bowling in the Olympics. We didn't make it into Tokyo 2020. I was just wondering what your thoughts on this were. What what do you think bowling as a sport worldwide needs to do to try and make an Olympic bid reality?
Well, I think that it's like anything else. We need to work together. And when I say work together, all facets of the sport of bowling. Uh, However you want to look at the sport and the game, obviously we have the USBC here in America. You have your own European bowling, not just European bowling tour, but I'm sure that you have certain rules and regulations that you guys live by as well. And then they also have those over in Asia. You have the Asian Games, and you have other aspects of it. Korea and Japan have their own professional tours, both men and ladies. Okay? But when you collectively look at the world, all of us want to see nothing more than the sport of bowling shine like some of the other sports. And we together have to continue to work on that day in and day out until hopefully someday it becomes an Olympic sport or a tradition within the Olympics that it's welcome all the time.
What do you think the biggest obstacle is that Tenpin bowling faces with an Olympic bid? I know I know the sports that were selected over bowling in the end. I think one was a martial arts of some kind. I think they were quite artistic sports. So whereas in bowling you've got the scoring, there's a very clear winner and loser. The sports that got in, I think, were what's the word? More subjective because of the artistic impression. I thought that was quite interesting. So, what do you think the biggest challenges are that bowling faces? Because
I
surely the
think the big
scoring is quite simple.
it's the challenge is not within the scoring itself. I believe that the biggest challenge that we have is our playing field. Okay? If we look at all the other sports, and let's just try to name four or five of them. If you look at a swimmer, the swimming pool is the swimming pool. The water does not get lighter, it does not get heavier. It may get a pinch cooler, it may get a pinch warmer depending on the temperature, but the length and the size of that pool never change. So therefore, the swimmers, whether they're diving in, jumping in, swimming, the water is the water, the pool is the pool. If we look at someone who does a floor exercise, a gymnast, or does the parallel bars, the uneven bars, the rings, the horse, it's the same exact shape and form at all times. Once again, the only thing that changes a little bit is the air temperature inside that arena. But what changes for us constantly is the lane condition that we play on. If you take a piece of paper, a blank sheet right now, and put a pencil to it or put a pen to it, that sheet of paper is changed forever. And when we roll a ball down a freshly oiled lane, regardless whether it's a brand new lane or a lane that has been stripped and re-oiled so that the condition is perfect in someone's eyes, the minute that a ball rolls down that lane, it has changed that condition forever. And that's what that hidden element that we can't seem to let open people or the open public, I'm going to use the Olympic Committee at the top of it, they don't understand the conditions under which we play our sport. And I'm going to back it up with one of the gravest challenges is how come sometimes the best bowlers in the world may only average 205 or 210, but yet some of the best amateurs in the world can average 250. And then obviously it can be vice versa, just by the conditions that we bowl on.
So I suppose, making, as you say, the Olympic Committee, the outside the bowling community see that is probably the biggest challenge that we face.
I think it is. We see the playing field for a baseball. You know what they're playing on. We can see the challenges on a golf course. The biggest challenge within a golf course, honestly, is the putting surface. If the putting surface is cut a little bit short, your ball is going to roll forever when you go to putt it. But if the putting surface is just a tiny bit longer, then your ball appears to slow up or really stop quite fast. But you still see the layout of each and every hole that you're playing on.
So, am I right in thinking that there were some PBA events where I think blue oil was used so the spectators could see the breakdown? Have I remembered that correctly?
Yep. It was a good head start. Don't get me wrong. It was something unique and different. But here's the trick to that. The blue oil or the blue tint or dye that they put in the oil, don't get faked out by it. If you looked at that dye or oil, it looked like there was a lot of it in the middle of the lane and it looked like there was none of it outside. That blue dye would move rather fast as a ball rolled down the lane. But the uniqueness is the oil itself that the naked eye still cannot see. That oil is picked up by the bowling ball and absorbed, and some of it is transcended down the lane towards the pins. The naked eye still does not see that, but boy, your bowling ball sure does read it.
Yeah. So the blue dye doesn't really go the whole way towards showing the playing conditions and everything. It's an interesting challenge that bowling needs to overcome, really, isn't it?
It is. It really, really is.
That's one for everyone to have a good think about. Finally, then I'll let you go. Just something light-hearted to finish on. What's your favourite thing about England when you came over for the World Cup last year?
My favorite thing that I look for whenever I'm going anywhere is the people themselves, how much they appreciate it. And it could be just me, it could be the other competitors, it could be the sport of bowling as I know it. Because I've lived this sport for the vast majority of my lifetime. But when I watched the people and the fans that showed up, when they packed that venue that we were in last year in Manchester, not Manchester,
Barnsley last year.
Barnsley. But equally right behind that, they not only packed it, but the excitement that they showed, they got into it every single shot. And that is what really makes it grow and makes it that much more fabulous for everybody. The 8 players that are going to be out there, we are out there to win. And at the same time, we are out there to put on a show, put on a performance for everyone there. And I believe in my heart that you're going to see that this year in Manchester, just like other people have seen it throughout the years at the Weber Cup before.
A real exhibition and showcase of Tenpin bowling at its best. I know a lot of people are very much looking forward to it. It's definitely going to be an interesting summer for sports. The Olympics is going on at the same time as well, but obviously Weber Cup is way more important.
Exactly, that's the way we feel.
Absolutely, I'm definitely looking forward to it. Okay, I'll let you go now because I know I've taken up a lot of your time, but thank you so much. I really do appreciate this.
Well, you are quite welcome.
Best of luck with the PBA 50 as well. I'll be following the scores now and seeing how that goes.
Okay, thanks. And if you need anything at all, I'd say just real easy, send me an email, and I'm sure we can catch back up. But you've got my Skype / I've got yours at any time over the next few weeks. If there's something you need, just leave me a little message, and I'll get back to you one way or the other.
Thank you so much, and hopefully I'll get to catch up with you at the Weber Cup as well.
I look forward to it, Helen.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a good afternoon. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you. Thanks. Take care.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.